Okay, so for this page, page 8, we really have to kind of just bear with me here. This is kind of complicated, but it's not really going to be as complicated as this the rest of the year. We're going to talk about the bare bones of what a variance and standard deviation are. These are measures of spread. So the variance, represented by s squared, is equal to this expression. 1 over n minus 1 just means 1 over 1 less than the number of observations. So if there was 20 things in the sample, this would be 1 over 19. This sigma, remember, means to sum up all of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take each observation minus the mean and square it, and then add up each one of those for each separate observation. So each observation goes here, the mean goes here, you square it, plus another observation minus the mean squared until you have all of them in there. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do this step by step down in the table on this page. So we will go through this one chunk at a time. Now, once you have this, the standard deviation is easy. Since the standard deviation is just s, which is the square root of s squared, you just take the square root of whatever this is. Now, in our mathematics, this will become one number. When we take the square root of that number, we get the standard deviation. So the variance is the standard deviation squared, and the square root of the variance is the standard deviation. So here's some numbers. It says, consider the following data on sample weights of dog food. Sample 1 describes the actual weight ounces of cans of pet food labeled as containing 8 ounces. So it says it contains 8 ounces. One of them had 7.1, 7.5, 7.6, and so on. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items here. So n equals 10 in that problem. That's the sample size. We're going to use this information to calculate the standard deviation of the sample. So it's already down on the paper here. But what I did is I wanted to calculate the mean. So what you could do is you can do 7.1 plus 7.5 plus 7.6 and so on. And then you get a number, you divide it by 10, and you get 7.81. Once we have the mean, we're going to start here working backwards. So write down each one of the observations from the stem and leaf plot. Those are the xi's in this. That's the observation. You can put a little I here to remind you that that's what that means. This means each individual observation. Now, the next column, I wrote x minus x bar. That's the inside part of this. So we're going to do that first. So it's this minus 7.81 gets you this. This minus 7.81 gets you that. So on and so forth. So it's all of these minus 7.81, and you fill those in. Next, we're going to do the squared part. So you take what you got here and you square it. Now remember about squaring. If you square a negative, you get a positive. If you square a positive, you get a positive. All of these should be positive numbers. So now we've done all of this. This says to sum them up. So you do all of these, add them all up, and you get this number right here, 1.429. That's where that came from. So now we have all of this. The last thing we have to do is multiply it by 1 over 10 minus 1. So that's 1/9. So 1/9 times 1.429 is 0.1587 repeating. Doesn't really matter. We're just rounding here. So this is the variance. We just calculated the variance. So now we have this. If we want to get just s, we take this number and do the square root of it, and we get our standard deviation. The standard deviation is 0.398. So we do the square root of that to get our standard deviation. Seems really complicated. Now, let me show you how we do this on the calculator. So you take your calculator and you enter your 10 weights of the dog food into your list 1. Then you hit stat, move over to calculate, and we're going to do the one variable stats of our list 1. Hit calculate. There's our 7.81. That's our mean. That checks out. What else can we check? Well, our standard deviation is SX, 0.398. And here we have 0.398. What you don't see in here is the variance. Now, it doesn't put the variance into this, but all we have to do get the variance is to, since we had to take the square root of this, all we have to do is square our S value. So you could just go quit and go 0.398 squared. And that's our 0.158. So we can calculate the variance and the standard deviation by just going to our list, calculate one variable stats, and since this is S and variance is S squared, you just square this number and that will give you your variance as well. Now, I didn't go through and do this one. If you want to try it on your own,